Company is notified a consumer has a significant problem or is injured by a product, it's supposed to tell the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
But we found a disturbing increase in the number of businesses busted by the feds for not reporting, which could actually be putting you and your family at risk. Investigators from the Consumer Product Safety Commission took this picture of the weed whacker that injured Bob Dolan.
But it went slamming into my shin and went right through my jeans,
splitting his skin and leaving him bleeding. We learned Bob was one of 158 people injured by the now recalled weed trimming device. The feds say the manufacturer knowingly failed to report several safety defects or hazards immediately to the CPSC as required by federal law. As a result, the weed whacking company was whacked with a fine just under $1 million.
It's pretty upsetting when I hear that. They just kind of ignored it.
Our investigation found a disturbing trend. The number of companies penalized for not reporting safety defects is growing. In 2010, the CPSC had to fine 2 companies more than $500,000. But in 2011, that number increased to 10 companies, and the fines totaled more than $4 million. It includes high-end refrigerators, exercise equipment, office equipment, and drawstring sweatshirts.
It greatly concerns us when injuries pile up and we're not told.
Federal law requires when a company learns a product fails to comply with safety standards, contains a defect which could create a substantial product hazard, or creates an unreasonable risk for serious injury or death, it must immediately inform the CPSC. Still,
companies struggle with when to report to the CPSC.
Attorney Christy Grimes Thompson represents product manufacturers. She says companies have to weigh factors like, was a consumer misusing something? Is there a pattern? Or at what point do complaints equal a substantial defect?
If the risk is maybe a little bump, probably wouldn't trigger an obligation to report. But if the risk is cutting off a body part or a concussion or something that's more significant, then that would likely trigger an obligation to report.
But the CPSC sees it differently.
If in doubt, report.
The CPSC is calling on consumers to let it know about product problems, and it wants manufacturers to know it's watching and counting.
If they are putting the health and safety of consumers at risk and keeping that information from us, they can really be held liable.
It really behooves companies to take care of these problems on their own as quickly as possible.
Now, Grimes Thompson says she would recommend companies never try to avoid a recall by not reporting incidents to the CPSC, especially in light of how the agency has been cracking down.